My name is Eleanor Harrison Bregman, and I live in New York City. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and I, on my father's side, have many enslavers, and I'm going to just list some of them from around 1850. Joseph Alston U.G. enslaved 78 people. Edward Lina, 75 people. Eliza Glover, 25 people. James Lina, 108 people. Isabel Ritchie Harrison, 175 people. And I learned about this history. I always knew about the history in some ways because my family bought a plantation in 1917, and it was sort of where we spent a lot of family time. So I always identified that particular piece of property where I visited my grandparents, along with the idea or the socialization that I came from the great families of Virginia and South Carolina. That was very much how I was socialized, so very much a part of my upbringing. If slavery was mentioned, it was generally not mentioned, and if it was mentioned, it was put in terms that make it sound maybe not so bad. So as I grew older, it was really when I went away to college in the North when I began to take classes and read books and came to really understand what it meant that I came from these families, that they owned several large plantations in South Carolina and Virginia, and that I began to have some, I guess, emotional cognitive dissonance around this pride that I was always taught to have and the history that I was learning and facing really for the first time. I felt a lot of shame, I felt a lot of guilt, and I think I wanted to run from that and not really think about it for many years. And more recently in my life, as I've come to do more research and face it, think about it, process it, I actually feel less shame and guilt. I feel more sadness, I feel more anger. And the more I face it and think about how to make amends, the less shame and the guilt I feel, and the sadness and the anger is, I'd say, is really always there. Ways in which I have been making amends or taking responsibility for this are related to the plantation that we are connected with now, that my great-great-grandfather bought in 1917. There's a burial ground of enslaved people and their descendants there that we've found. We're looking for descendants of people who are buried there. We want to connect the people the descendants with their ancestors. We want to find ways to honor and remember what happened at this place, and so if we can find, I'm in the process of trying to find descendants. There are nearby descendant communities, and there are also people in nearby Savannah who are historians and truth tellers and storytellers and ritualists, and I hope to bring them, have brought, started to bring, but are just at the beginning of bringing people there to do ritual and storytelling, truth-telling, and to share with more people what happened there and how that really created the wealth that supported Savannah. When people go to do tourism in Savannah and see the big houses, the wealth really was extracted from the people at these nearby plantations just across the Savannah River in South Carolina. So that kind of education, that kind of truth-telling, bringing groups who are interested in reparations to the Savannah area to meet Black farmers, to meet Black historians who are doing this truth-telling, and to support their efforts is part of the repair. My supporting these people and developing relationships with them, and I really think that repair and the amends, it comes from the deepening relationships that I'm having. Sometimes it's moving money, and sometimes it's reparative genealogy, and sometimes it's listening to the truth and sharing it with the family. It's writing for my family that I'm doing about this plantation, about everything I can learn about it, the hidden history, the narratives that we didn't really learn about it growing up. I'm trying to do writing about that. And I facilitate groups with and for other white people who are wanting to know how race matters in their life and how they can begin to interrupt racism and on whatever repair looks like in their lives.